Physics, Aliens, and the Matrix, Part 1, Supreme Consciousness. Some alien contactees have been told that many aliens believe in a supreme consciousness at the core of all that is. Contactee and author Elena Danaan, who is said to be an emissary of the Galactic Federation of Worlds, says some members of the Federation call the supreme consciousness Source. Contactee Alex Collier says Andromedans call it isness. Aspects of the source-isness concept resemble a physics theory of reality that has been described as coming closest to explaining the existence of a supreme consciousness that many would call God. The theory says that we are individual units of a greater consciousness having experiences in a virtual reality in a way similar to how video game players take on avatars to have experiences in virtual worlds. The virtual reality simulation theory is based on evidence that we as players, as well as the mechanism rendering our reality and our avatars, are all completely comprised of consciousness. As the Hindus say, it's all Maya, illusion. Others call it the Matrix. The VR simulation concept as a formal physics theory was developed by physicist Tom Campbell. It developed from his consciousness work helping to create the Monroe Institute and his examination of physics' most important quantum mechanics experiments. To understand Campbell's theory, it's helpful to understand physics history. In the 1800s, physicist Thomas Young showed that light had a wave property, since it created an interference pattern like waves in water when it went through two slits in a barrier. The troughs and crests reinforce one another to create the interference pattern. In the early 20th century, Einstein explained that light is comprised of particles called photons. So it was assumed that the photons were colliding with each other after going through the slits to somehow create the interference pattern, also known as a wave or fringe pattern, which gave the illusion that light was a wave. To test that theory, physicists experimented with firing one photon at a time at the slits. They expected to see a particle pattern on the screen. However, they were very surprised to find that the experiment still resulted in an interference pattern. To try to understand what was happening, they added detectors that could measure which path slit the photons were taking at what time. And the light then registered on the screen with a particle pattern. And when they removed the detectors, the light went back to a wave interference pattern. When light acted as a wave, the location where individual photons would hit the screen could only be calculated as a probability. But photons as particles acted more like physical objects, as the physicists put it, measuring, focusing, looking at the which path information collapsed the wave function. Some skeptics said it couldn't merely be the conscious observation that's collapsing the wave function, so the detectors themselves must somehow be causing the transition to physical object behavior. But the skeptics were proven wrong by a brilliant replicated quantum experiment, which is discussed in Part 2 of our Physics, Aliens, and the Matrix series. Over the years, the same transition from wave behavior to physical behavior caused by conscious observation was found with many different types of subatomic particles, some as large as molecules made up of 60 carbon atoms. The fact that human focus, attention, on a subatomic particle appears to move it from the realm of probabilities to physical reality has led some of the greatest physicists to conclude that consciousness is at the core of our reality. The great physics pioneer and Nobel Prize winner Max Planck said, "As a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you as a result of my research about atoms this much. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter." The great 1963 Nobel Prize-winning physicist Eugene P. Widner said, "It will remain remarkable in whatever way our future concepts may develop, that the very study of the external world led to the conclusion that the content of the consciousness is an ultimate reality." End of Part 1, Supreme Consciousness. You can see Part 2 in the Physics Department or in the Billions of Years Ago section of the History Department of the Fine Day Academy, fineday.com.